Hello and welcome to my newest episode of ENTP time. I hope you like my outfit. It's my quarantine outfit. Every day I find that I change from, pajamas into new pajamas, which has been the new norm recently, which I'm sure some of you can relate to. But anyway, if I haven't introduced myself already, which I don't remember if I did, I'm Jaycee Choi, and today I'm going to be talking about the final function out of the 8 that I haven't talked about yet, which is extroverted sensing, also known as SE. Okay, so to give a little bit of background, like I usually do for the types, extroverted sensing is one of the external functions, and it's one of the perceiving functions. Because it's an extroverted function, it has more breadth rather than depth, and it's more objective rather than subjective. It is actually not in my valued stack. It's in my unvalued, and it's pretty low down my stack because I am an ENTP, as you should know by now, hopefully. But essentially, I don't value it, so a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be stuff I've heard from my SE dominant friends or from what I've experienced from interacting with SE doms. And I also want to show how it looks like when it's lower down your stack like it is for me. So I guess to start off with, SE DOMs are normally like very stereotypically known for being very in the moment. Like they're very much like kinesthetic, I guess. Like they're very in their bodies. Like they're like one with their body. Like for me, if I was to describe myself, I would contrast it with like I'm very in my head, like very much so. So because I'm an NE dominant, extroverted intuition dominant. So I think that's a huge contrast from extroverted sensing, which is like very much like in the moment. They're not really thinking about like what will happen or what has happened. They're thinking about what is currently happening. Perfect. I added an ice cube today so that I could drink from the beginning, and it's actually a really good temperature. But anyway, if you have extroverted sensing, it's on the polar axis, it is connected with introverted intuition. So if you have extroverted sensing in your valued stack, you also have introverted intuition in your valued stack. So I think the way that looks for a lot of high SE users, so that would be the ESXPs and the ISXPs. Basically, they have it in their first or second position. It looks a lot like SE is picking up on a lot of physical cues in the environment. So like body language is one really big thing that SE DOMs are really quick to notice. Like it's already like ingrained in them. They already know exactly what certain body language means. They don't need to learn about it. Like me, I read up on it to like figure out more, but like SE DOMs just like already know. So they pick up a lot on like the SE physical cues and clues, and they store them somewhere in their NI. And then one day, finally, they're like, I figured out the whole entire pattern. And that's like kind of how SE works. It like picks up on a lot of physical cues, and then eventually it's like, this is the big grand conclusion. And like for NI users, this looks a lot like they could just predict the future of what's going to happen because of the SE things that have happened. For SE DOMs, it's more of like, it's a gut feeling, because they can't pinpoint like the specifics, because they don't really have SI in their valued stack, right? So they can't pinpoint like the specifics, but the whole gut feeling, which comes from NI, which comes from SE, I feel like is all connected at the very end, and they're like, this is the conclusion. So it's hard for them to have a conclusion up front, but like after enough like physical interactions, then it like comes out. And like it's also interesting because like SE users tend to really hold like really good eye contact, because their eyes will show exactly what they're thinking about. Like they look straight into your eyes when they're talking to you. Something that drives my ESFP friend crazy is when he's talking to me and then he's like, hey, look at that. And he's like pointing at something behind me. And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. And I don't turn around to look at it. It drives him crazy. He's like, look at it. I'm like, yeah, but it's the clock. You're talking about the clock, right? He's like, yeah, but he wants me to like look. And also conversely, like when I'm talking to him, if I like look to the side and I just stare, then he'll turn around, which like I know most people do, they follow the gaze, but like SE dominance even more so. So he'll be like, what? Like I'd start laughing because there was nothing there. I just did it to like mess with him. So like that's something I notice a lot with like high SE users. It's like really big on like body language, very movement oriented. They're usually very skillful at like stuff with their body, and like stereotypically a lot of SE users are always like dancing. Like they're always just moving their bodies as they're like moving around, and I'm just like, how do you even do that? Like I look so awkward even like pretending to like move my body. And I find that they're like just like they, you know, like when you look at someone and they're just like, they look really comfortable and they don't look awkward. It's like usually a high SE user, they're just like, their bodies just look so comfortable. They're just like they could lounge in any position and it doesn't look awkward. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's really interesting to me, like, in that regards. And it's a very different, like, perceiving style as, like, NE. Also, like, SE likes a lot of literal stuff, so it's like, it reminds me a little bit of TE. It's kind of like, okay, so why does that matter? You know, like, or like, SE likes to talk about, like, what's happening in the moment. Compared to NE, we like to look at, like, the future and project, like, hypotheticals of what could happen or what will probably happen based on past experiences. But SE is like, why are we talking about something that could happen? Let's talk about something that is happening. And so, like, me getting along with another ESP is like, it works and like we like each other until they would rather talk about more literal things and I would talk more about hypotheticals. So that's like where there's like that contention point between the two. But I do find that like a lot of EPs in general do look really fairly similar, because NE DOMs and SE DOMs have a similar type of energy, you know, like they all are very like high energy usually, except SE dominants are usually louder. But they do have a lot of high energy, and like SE and an NE DOM, I could find them really like bouncing off each other really well, because NE is down to like try new ideas and come up with new things. So NE will come up with something new, and then SE will be like, let's do it. So then you guys just do it together. The ENTP or ENP's SI is low enough in their stack where they're just kind of like, sure, let's do it, you know? And also like SI is usually like, I want to have a good time for the sake of like me having a good time. And SE is like, I want everyone around me to have a good time, because if you guys aren't vibing, then I'm not vibing, right? So I find that that interaction actually works really well together, but they do need some sort of like grounding force. So as far as like SE coming out in like ISFPs and ISTPs, it definitely comes out a lot more muted, just because it's not the first function, especially in ISTPs. I find that ISTPs are quietly very good at SE, but they're not like in your face about it, because like SE DOMs are like stereotypically also known to be able to like fix anything with their hands, which they pretty much are. They're usually into like building stuff, so building computers, building desks, building a car, building anything. A lot of them are really good at fashion, because SE, they're really good at like seeing all these like combinations, and just like the physical is very comfortable for an SE user compared to me. If I like try to sit down and actually like think about like the physical and what's actually happening right in this moment, like me and my cup, then like it'll drive me crazy. I'm like, I just want to think about the future and what could happen, or hypotheticals of things that will never ever happen. Safe to say that me and SE users, we do drive each other crazy, even though we love each other for the most part. And something that my friend Nate was saying earlier today was that like to mess with SE DOMs, what he does is he puts his cup like right on the edge of a table, like kind of like this, and he sees the SE user just start to like freak out. But like for NE users, like our reality is just in our head, it's not like in the physical. So the SE user will be like, ah, but you know, the NE user would just like, meh, whatever. So if anything, like I think SE users are very like carefree, but like carefree in a very different way from NE DOMs. And I know that the way I've been describing it is very like in contrast with the NE, but like the best way to talk about functions in my opinion is to like compare and contrast, because as much as you have one type, that means you are like lacking in another way, or you just don't have the other preference, right? So I do see like that sort of aspect in it. And yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say for today's episode. I'm going to keep it fairly short. I guess it's not that short, but thank you for joining me on my newest episode of ENTP Time, and I hope to catch you on another one. Peace.